how is it going, my dudes? Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for all the wishes. Yes, it is really my birthday. I am currently 29 years old. And this video is not even supposed to be released today, but I feel like I have a little bit of pocket of time and I would still like to connect with you guys. It kind of feels weird to not post videos every single day, or at least every other day. But anyway, without further ado, let's get on with the video straight away. So yes, I was not able to obtain any of the net 5s, but I do still have Mizuchi, and Mizuchi is still very powerful. And I'm going to show you how strong she can be in this team. So this is going to be a selfish DA, which sits really well with Mizuchi, because if you take a look at Mizuchi's ability 2, you add 15% to the damage that the leader does against foes with poison active, and you add 10% to the attack as well. I'm actually not very sure whether this 10% attack benefits the leader or Mizuchi herself, but regardless, this alone is big enough. And her ability 1 is kind of pointless because this only ramps up the damage that your poison actually does. But we're not too bothered about poison, we just need a boss to be poisoned, and therefore we're going to do a little bit more damage because of the poison debuff, triggering abilities like ability 3. So as you can see here, when the battle starts, you add 50% to skill gauge for this unit, blah blah blah, and 100% damage buff against poison enemies. So this is the part that we are very interested in. And we can finally dust off our useless Suizen, because currently Suizen is starting to have a little bit more potential. He still doesn't have his full potential just yet, but on this team, he works really well. So there are two things that I think really stand out for him. Okay, so the first one is you add 20% to the HP for this unit. He makes for a very good main with a sub of Fuff, because Fuff is going to be your tanker. And with this 20% extra HP, your Fuff is actually going to be super tanky. Even if the golem hits you with a firestorm, you're still going to be able to survive really well. And of course, the second thing that is very important for Suizen in this team is going to be his third skill. You add 25% to the damage that your water units deal against foes with poison active. So this is going to be a standalone buff. I think it's not really the same as this over here where you add 100% damage buff against poison enemies. I think this, by damage buff, I suspect that they could mean attack percentage, but I'm not fully certain myself. Regardless, even if it's attack percentage, that's the minimum that we can expect, and it is still really strong. And to review Unit 1 really quickly, this is going to be a selfish direct attack team. So we have Sonya running with Rimnis, and let's take a look at what they do together and why they are so important to run with each other. So Sonya, when your combo reaches 30, you increase your attack, so her attack goes up quite a bit. And also you add 50% to the time that attack buffs are active, so the longer your attack buffs, the more damage you're going to do, especially in the direct attack team, not like a skill damage team. So in a skill damage team, you only need your attack buffs to go off immediately, and they can just last for like 5 seconds and that's enough. It's not the same for a direct attack team. And of course, ability 3. While buffs are active, this unit does 2 direct hits, so this actually doubles, or in fact more than doubles, because of this part where you add 50% to the total damage dealt, more than doubles your direct attack damage. And Rimnis is a super selfish DA unit, which works really well for Sonya. So every 10 times a direct hit is dealt, you add 10% to the direct hit damage for himself, up to 150% direct hit damage. And when this unit is a water unit, while piercing is active, you add 120% direct hit damage to this unit. Again, this is a very selfish buff, but it fits perfectly for what you're trying to achieve over here. And one last thing that I like to talk about before we start the run, this is one reason why I feel like this team synergizes very well with each other, and it's kind of complete at this point in time. If you take a look at Mizuchi and Rain, so Mizuchi starts with a 50% skill gauge, right? So that means that you will never overlap Rain's levitation and penetration with Unit 1. Yes, Unit 1 does not have levitation, but Unit 1 does have penetration because of Rimnis. So based on their skill gauges over here, they are never going to overlap, which is something that is very important to me. And secondly, Mizuchi herself is a poison unit, and she poisons the boss for I think about 30 seconds. And Suizen is also my poison unit, so I have 2 poison units, and they do have very similar skill gauges. And because Mizuchi has 50% more skill gauge at the start, they are never going to overlap their poison as well. So the poison uptime on this team is super high. And to add, Suizen is probably going to be one of the best poison debuffing units in this game, because his poisons actually last for 40 seconds. But not only that, he has a buff around himself for 10 whole seconds that continuously applies poison to anything that he touches. So effectively, he has upwards of 50 seconds of poison duration. Anyway, I've talked more than enough. Let's take a look at the run. As usual, we are going to be doing it with pubs, because pubs gives you the best idea of whether your team works or not, because you're probably not going to be running with friends all the time. But if you are, then I guess you're going to be running one pun maybe. I think that makes the most sense. Regardless, let's draw our focus back to the run. Yes, at the start, we're not going to be achieving a lot, we're just going to be bouncing around. Unfortunately, we do not have Lakeisha. If we did have Lakeisha, everything is going to be very different over here. We probably may not be able to run a Sonya Rimnis selfish DA that well, but that will be for another video, just in case I do summon Lakeisha in the future. But I would like to inform you guys that next time Poison is going to be buffed even further. So Poison no longer just applies a damage over time effect. Poison would eventually even add on an extra effect, which is to reduce the resistance of the enemy. So therefore in the future, Poison is actually going to be a very important source of increasing your own DPS. It's essentially always going to be a standalone buff which multiplies your DPS, so you need as many of these kinds of standalone buffs as much as possible. You might also notice that our Poison debuff is not really wearing off that often in this run. I think the boss is going to be perpetually poisoned for this run, which is going to be really nice in the future. But for now, we are still going to do a lot more damage on the boss whenever he's poisoned, which is going to be super good for a direct attack team. But of course, that's not to say that this team they're running with, like Suizen and Mizuchi, that this team doesn't work for skill damage. This absolutely works for skill damage. In fact, I will show you a video on that tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow. Poison at this point is basically just an attack buffer, so you can run anything with it. But the thing is, right now for water skill damage, there's only going to be New Year's Elia, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do not have New Year's Elia. But apart from that, maybe Sonya and Klaus can actually benefit as a skill damage unit because their DPS actually extends over a period of time. So it kind of works like a DA team, except that the duration of your DPS is much shorter. But I guess we can cover that in the future. So tomorrow I will only be releasing a New Year's Elia video. Anyway, I have talked about too many other things. This team is probably going to be my go-to team for now. It is really strong, and the thing is, if you want to get Lakeisha, if you want to get Librom, all these units are just going to add on to your power. They are not necessarily going to be the key that helps you to beat certain bosses. You can definitely clear bosses even with really free-to-play units. And that's it for the run. Let's take a look at our score. This is not the fastest that I have run. I have achieved a lot faster than this, I think about 2 minutes, but anyway, this is 29, about 30 million damage over a period of 3 minutes. So 10 million damage per minute, I think that's pretty good, and especially since you're not using Lakeisha. But that will be it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It helps me to know that you appreciate the video, and it allows me to make more content such as this. And this has been free to play, by the way, and as always, I will see you in the next video.